Hello, this is Justin for CGTuts Plus, and today I'm going to show you how to model, render, and texture an Ipod Nano first generation. We're going to do this using Lexology Modo 401, and right now I have right here I have some reference images that we're going to use, and to give you a sneak peek on how the finished product shot is going to look like, there you go. This is how it's going to look like, except for some minor changes that we're going to do. Anyway, let's give it a go. So first of all, let's drag our reference images into Modo, just so we have them already loaded up. Okay, now on the right we have a list, and we can add a new backdrop item among other things like lights, camera, replicators, etc. So we're gonna add a new backdrop item. The projection type is gonna be front, and the image is gonna be pod front. And let's change the transparency on this to 60%. Okay, let's rename this to front. Add a new item. This time the projection type is going to be top, and the image is going to be pod top. Transparency to 60%. Let's move this out of the way. This one too, and rename this top. You can rename it by just clicking it once and then click and pause, and it's going to display an edit. Or you can right click on it, and it's going to display a menu, and you can choose rename. But I prefer this option, because if I right click and choose rename, a pop-up window it's gonna pop up and it's, you gotta rename it and then press OK, blah blah blah. Anyway, let's add the last backdrop item, and this one is gonna be for the bottom reference image. So bottom, pod bottom. Okay, and let's change the transparency to 60%. Okay, now that we're done with our blueprints, we can get on with starting to model our product. Okay, so let's start modeling this. But first, I want to mention that you might want to save your scene often. Very often, I mean, when you're working with Modo, because sometimes something happens and it crashes. Anyway, let's name our scene Ipod and save it. Okay, now one thing I want to do is I want to keep my scene in order, and that's by grouping everything together. So I'm going to create a new item and a group locator, which is going to act like it's going to act kind of like a folder. So let's rename this reference. Sorry. Okay, and let's drag our reference images inside it, so we can hide and unhide all of them at the same time. Okay. Now the best way to approach modeling this would be to just start with primitives. So let's get going. So let's create a default cube. So a default cube, because if you just select the cube tool, you're gonna start drawing a cube. Well, we don't want that, but we want a default cube with its position in the center. So we're just gonna hold down Control and just click on the cube primitive. Okay. Yeah, first we gotta select our mesh, and then we can click on our cube primitive. Okay, and we can start rescaling it to the size that we want. Okay, so let's start rescaling it. From experience, I know that this is around 800 or more. It actually depends on the scale that the reference images are. So we try to match it roughly to our reference image. Okay, and if you look closely, you see that the edges are beveled. So we're gonna bevel the edges just like the reference image says, shows us. Sorry. One thing I managed to omit is that this needs to go over like that. Okay, and now we can bevel the edges right there. Okay. Okay, so the edges are now beveled. If we're gonna smooth this out right now, we're not gonna get a pretty nice image, but we're gonna fix it. Okay, now let's rough out the bottom and the top piece. First of all, let's inset this a bit, just like that. Okay, maybe a bit more. Let's say 80 millimeters. Okay, and hold down Shift and click once in the viewport. Then we're gonna create another bevel. So just so you know, the shortcut key for the bevel tool is it's B. Okay, now let's drag this down tiny bit, maybe 50 minus 50. Okay, now shift click again and inset it again to about 70 millimeters. Okay, and if we look closely at our reference image, you'll see that although there isn't too much level difference between this inset and this one, we still need to push this down just a tiny bit. 20. Okay. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and detach the top and bottom parts because we don't want to perform extra cuts on them. So Control X and Control V. Let me show you how I selected them. I just selected the base polygon, and then using Shift and up arrow, let me zoom in. Shift and up arrow, it automatically grows the selection. Okay, let's rename this layer body, and this layer, let's rename it top bottom. Okay, let's focus on the body for now. Okay, now let's just start with our screen. So our screen, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. We just need to add a few edge loops to define the screen shape. So let's just select these polygons and we're gonna use loop slice, which is Alt C, the shortcut. So Alt C, and we're gonna add one edge, but we don't really want it right on top of this edge on the reference image. We want it a bit down because we're gonna inset this just a bit, because we want a little row of polygons over here to just help it hold its shape. Okay, and let's add another loop for the top part. Now we go into shaded. We select this polygon here, which will define our screen. We hit B for bevel, and click once, and then we inset right there. Okay, now what we need to do before detaching the screen is just bevel it, extrude it inward a bit. Again, using the bevel tool, don't use the extrude tool. Okay, now let's Control X and let's move it to another layer. Call this screen. Control V to paste it in place, and we hide it, and again we turn to our body. Now if we try to smooth this out, we're gonna get a pretty ugly picture. This is definitely not what we want. But first of all, let's begin with separating the areas in which our menu wheel is gonna come, and in which our screen is gonna be. So I'm gonna use the slice tool, which is Shift C, and I'm just gonna add a slice right there, and I'm gonna add another one right there. Although we can skip adding the bottom one, because we're not gonna add anything else on the bottom piece, just the menu wheel. Okay, and now let's bevel these edges just to make them a bit smoother and a bit sharper at the same time. We're gonna use about a 5mm bevel. We're gonna do the same on the bottom side. So bevel, click once, and just set here 5mm. Okay. And now you can see these top parts already look much better, but we're gonna need to add another edge over here at about 5%. Same here. The only difference is that 5% needs to be 99, if I'm not mistaken. No, it needs to be 99.5. Okay, and now if we smooth out, we're gonna see that they look much better. And we also want to add an edge right there at about 25.5%. You can use whatever value you see fit. I'm just eyeballing it. And okay, now this distance here is kind of too big to smooth out, and we're gonna get our mesh is gonna get a bit deformed, but we're gonna fix that later when we're gonna add the wheel. So now let's work on our screen. Well, for a start, we can start adding a loop slice with the mode to symmetry and the count to 2 right here. Just click and drag to about 1%. That should do it. Now on the sides. Okay, and now as you can see, it already looks much better. One thing we might want to do is push this a bit back. Okay, it already looks much better, but on this bottom part, well, if we try to add another loop slice with the symmetry on, we're gonna get edges all the way down. Well, we don't want that, so we're gonna have to add them manually and end them at one point. So again, cut till it says 1%, 1%, 99, and we're just gonna end it right there. Same here. And blue. Okay, now this looks better, but it's not finished. One thing we need to do is add edges to sustain this this edge here, so it remains sharp. So we're gonna add an edge right in there. Let's change the mode to free and the count to 1. Just push it all the way to 99%. Okay, now you can see it looks much better than what we had before. And now we can add a new edge right there, and this makes it a lot more sharper than it was. And we can probably add a few edges in here to just help it smooth. 2, okay, and 2. Okay, now that's smoothed out. Okay, we're done with this one. Now we need to focus on adding the wheel. So we're gonna add the wheel. Pretty simple, and I'm gonna show you that in a minute. Okay, yeah, let's save our scene before adding more detail. Okay, and let's start by making a cylinder in the front viewport, but let's make it on another layer. So let's go to our basic tab, and let's just create a default cylinder. Like I said, hold down Control and click. Now we need to remove these edges, because definitely we don't need that many edges. And let's rotate it 90 degrees. When you rotate, let me just show you. You can hold down Control while you rotate, just so it rotates from 15 degrees to 15 degrees. So 15, 30, 45, 60. Anyway, so let's delete this part because we don't need it. Okay. One thing I'm going to do is go down to visibility options and take show verts. Okay, now when you want to cut a hole inside a mesh, well, let's just say that you want to have your stuff sorted out before doing it, because okay, let's say we want to use this cylinder to cut the hole. Well, we can use it, but we kind of have too many verticals, if you see. So we have how many edges? 24. Well, you're gonna say, where am I gonna connect all those edges? Well, you won't have to connect them anywhere, because we're not gonna use a cylinder with that many edges. So let's start by, let's just leave this over here, and let's create 2 more cylinders with different sides. So 1, 1, and let's choose, let's say 10 sides. Okay, and another one with 8. Okay, now let's hide. No, let's look at them a bit, and now let's see how they smooth out. Which one is the roundest? Well, definitely this one is the roundest, but like I said, too many edges, and we won't have. We'll just complicate things by using this one. So now, if you look closely at our model, you're gonna see that we can actually use this one because we have 2 points here, which we can connect to these verticals, and we have 3 points on the side, which we can obviously add cuts in here, 3 cuts, and we can connect those. Okay, then let's get it on. Delete the other 2. Let's just make sure this is centered, and we're gonna just scale it till it meets our shape. We can check. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna do this using booleans, and let's extrude this so we have a closed surface. Let's go to the body layer, go to geometry, boolean, solid drill, stencil, leave the default settings, and let's hide the layer with the cylinder. Now let's go to the front and let's start connecting these up. Well, one way we can do it is to just add 2 cuts right there, and now connect them up, and then we can add 3 cuts, but we need to change the mode to free to make sure they meet our edges, our points, sorry. Okay, and now we can connect them up. This way we're gonna have quads all over, and we need not to worry about triangles. Okay, we can remove this edge. Okay, and for the bottom piece we can just add a cut with the mode to uniform and count to 2 and connect them up. There we go. Now let's turn off the show verticals option. Now let's select the polygon that we just connected up, and let's just inset it just a bit so we have a tiny row of polygons. Hold shift and click in the viewport ones and just just inset it just a bit, but not now. Sorry. So let's create a row of polygons again. Now let's go to the front, switch the wireframe, and let's just inset till we meet the inner circle. Okay, let's create a small row of polygons for this one too. Okay, now we need to select these because this is going to be the band that has the menu attached, and we need to detach this. But before, we need to make sure it's extruded inward a bit, and we just move it to another layer, and let's call this menu. We paste it in, and we want to move it very close to the surface. Okay, now let's move this out. There we go, and it's smoothing out pretty nice. As you can see, it's looking good. Let's collapse these. Just select it, inset it a bit, and then go to vertex and join averaged. Okay, let's unsmooth this. Okay, now that we're done with the wheel, we can go ahead and go on with modeling the top part here and the bottom part. Let's smooth this and this, and let's jump over to our top bottom. Now, if we smooth this right now, it's not going to look too good. Well, let's make a few adjustments. First of all, let's add a slight inset. Then let's add some edge. Let's extend this edge a bit. I'm just using edge extend, which you can find it into the edge extend, and the shortcut is Z. Okay, and now we need a sharp edge here and here, so we're just gonna add a loop slice with symmetry mode and just drag those right in there. Okay, and right now we can start working on this lock side, but first lock piece. But first we need to hide this bottom piece because we're gonna do some cuts and we don't want them to translate over to the other side. And as you can probably see, our mesh has a few problems when it comes to holding its shape right here, but we can fix that pretty easy. We just enable snap to grid. We just make a slice right through the middle, go to the wireframe mode and just delete the bottom part. Now we set our action center to origin and we just mirror this across. So we go to duplicate, mirror on the z-axis, and well, I think I know what the problem is, and the problem is that over here we have some edges that help it hold. Now we're gonna deal with it later on. So let's hide the body for now, and let's switch to wireframe. Go to a new layer. Okay, and we can start by creating a rectangle roughly the same size as our hole that we need to do here, but don't forget to turn off snapping because sometimes it can get really annoying, and set the action center to automatic. Okay, and let's start resizing this to the scale that we need. Okay, now we can extrude it and bevel the edges to match our reference. Now you need to be careful when we bevel these edges because at one point we're going to need to connect them up somehow. So let's just look here how many vertex points we have. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to need to make sure that we have 7 points here too. So 3, 5, 7. There we go. 7 points. Now let's just match this up the best we can. Okay, it's matched up. Now we can do a stencil through this piece. So geometry, boolean, solid drill, stencil. Now we can hide that one. Going to the top and let's start connecting the points. Well, now we need to enable the show verticals option, because if we go to wireframe we can't see very well. I don't know about you, but I can't see the verticals very well. So let's connect the points. Let's just connect these endpoints over here, and let's connect this one because it's already connected. And now we can remove this big n-gon, and we can just bridge. So we go to duplicate and bridge. Okay, now this side, well, this side has problems. So we're just gonna do the same that we did on the left side, but we're gonna make this easier, and we're gonna drag this all the way here, and we're gonna connect the end verticals, delete the n-gon, double click the edge to select that, hold this, select these edges, and bridge. Now it's moving correctly. Well, now you're gonna say, well, you could have done this by insetting. Well, yeah, you could have done it by insetting, but I prefer to do it this way because it's more precise. Now let's drag this back to its place, which is right here. And if we smooth it out, you're gonna see that we're gonna get a pretty good result. But this over here is a very large area for the program to smooth, so we're gonna need to add a few edges, a few helping edges. So let's, using the slice tool, just add some edges in there, and let's maybe add one in there, a bit closer to this one. And now we need to select these verticals. Make sure you have wireframe on so you can select through the mesh, and let's just move them like that. And I think that right now we solved our smoothing problem. Yes, we did. Okay, and now let's just duplicate this. Well, first of all, we do want to inset it a bit just to create a small row of polygons. Now we can copy it for later use, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's just make the hole that we said we would. Now let's paste this other piece and hide it. Okay, and now let's make our hole hold its position much better. Okay, it holds out pretty well. Now let's unhide this other piece, but make sure to hide back the bottom. Okay, and now let's go to the top, and now we need to hide everything. Now we need to make this just like the reference. Okay, this is mainly a switch. Now we can extrude it down using the extrude tool, which is right here, and the shortcut is X. Okay, now let's move it into place. Just want it to touch that surface, just a tiny bit like that. And if we smooth it, you'll see that we're not getting a very good mesh, but we can fix that. First, let's add a bevel using just the roundness level of 1, and now we can delete the bottom piece because we don't need it and it's not going to be visible. We're going to make a small inset right here, and let's see if it matches. Well, I'd say it matches in pretty good, except that over here you can see we have a small problem, and that is because, like I said, this distance is very, very big. Now let's hide our bottom piece again, go to the top, and let's just add a few slices to ease out the smooth. Okay, and right now you're gonna see that this looks much better, but we might want to pull this out just a bit. Okay, just a bit. Okay, that's enough. Now let's turn off the visibility options for the verticals, and if we unhide everything, check, you're gonna see that they match out pretty good. Okay, so now that we're done with the top part, next we are gonna work on the bottom part. But before that, let's just save our scene, and we're gonna start working on the bottom part in a minute.